the Pilgrims were coming over to form a new religious community and society. So it's a sacred trip. It's a trip that goes to honor people's sacred beliefs. And this pilgrimage was a trip that it was a trip to recreate the freedom rides of the early 1960s, late 50s. And the freedom rides were when white and black students decided to help to desegregate the South by riding through the South on buses together, and stopping in places where whites and blacks were not allowed to sit together on buses, not allowed to wait in the same waiting places, and all sorts of things. And they were met with incredible violence. They were bombed, they were beaten, people were killed. It was an incredible time. And so Tim Jones, our political science department chair, and one of the best faculty members I've ever met anywhere. He's just amazing. So take Tim Jones' classes if you can. Has organized this trip. This was the second time he did this trip. He did it in conjunction with people at the UW. He will be doing it again in January, and I'm sure this will become at least once, if not twice a year. And students can apply to go on this trip, and he turns it into a 5-credit course so that you actually study and learn while you're doing it. And I'd just like Nick to tell us a bit about his trip.
Yeah, so like she said, we went down to the South, and it's more or less trying to recreate what the civil rights, what the freedom rides were, but it's also kind of just, we strayed a little bit because, you know, we wanted to kind of go just see a bunch of points in the whole civil rights movement. So we went up to Little Rock to see the first place where a public high school was integrated for black students.
Central High in Little Rock, Arkansas, folks.
Yep. And it's actually like a national park monument now.
Yes.
Which I didn't know. There's actually a bunch of these, well, a couple of these places are supported by the national parks, which you wouldn't think like services are usually like forests, but no, they do historical sites. And we went, oh man, we went to a lot of places. We usually, it was mostly in Mississippi and Alabama. We went to Selma, Montgomery, which is where Bloody Sunday happened.
Yes.
You guys know, and that was the first of 3 marches that were done during that time. The third one was a march from Selma to Montgomery,
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of whole effort culminated eventually in the Voting Rights Act of 1965 being passed.
I don't think they can push over
We
some.
we saw where Emmett Till was murdered.
Do you guys know Emmett Till? Okay, you should. He is a name you should know. I'll tell you about him a little bit later.
Yeah, but...
Oh, the other thing I wanted to add before I forgot is that members, people who were actually freedom riders, actually got on the bus and rode with these students. So people who had done the history were there talking with you and becoming friends with you and telling you about what they experienced.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so I can talk about this whole thing for hours, but something I really want to talk about that relates to this class is how many powerful women were part of the movement. Because a lot of time, the saying is like, oh, MLK stood up and Rosa sat down. And that's like the whole thing, but it's totally not. And a lot of people don't know the whole movement, or excuse me, the whole Montgomery bus boycott,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I think it was the first integration of like public transportation in the South.
And people call it the beginning of the civil rights movement, even though people have been doing things before.
Yes, but it was one of the first really successful movements, and it was sparked by Rosa Parks, even though there were other people before her that had like sort of done their own protests.
Tried the same thing.
But because Rosa Parks was already kind of active in the movement, they picked her to sort of be the focal point.
This is something that people don't tell you. They tell you that she was a maid who was tired and just didn't want to sit down. Rosa Parks was the secretary of the NAACP. Rosa Parks was college educated. Rosa Parks knew exactly what she was doing and planned this protest. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been press there to take pictures of Rosa Parks on the bus.
Yeah, it was very planned. It was very intentional. But what people don't know even more than that is that there's this woman, Joanne Robinson,
Yes.
who is the head of this, I think it's the Women's Political Council in Montgomery. And she and her group was actually responsible for like just coming up with the idea of boycotting the buses at all, and actually distributing newsletters to like all entire Black community there,